Show up, show up, show up, show up. Hello and welcome back to Show Up with me, Sofi Bonde, and this is Sara Edman, the first CEO of Electrolux Norden. Welcome to the show. Thank
you so much. This is a real treat.
This is a real treat for me. Thank you so much. I was inspired by your story. You are a girl from small town in Sweden. You were a real horseback rider. You were competing
in dressage.
Yes. And then you moved to the other side of the world and ended up in Australia. How did that happen?
So I was still studying. I was in boarding school for my horse riding prior to that. So it was really supposed to become, my career. So from 16 to 19, I was in a national boarding school for elite athletes.
Wow.
And I'm very sporty.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, it's good to have a backup. Yeah. Right, go to university, learn a trade. So I started at Stockholm University, the business administration, and really enjoyed it. I still competed on national level during that time. So kind of showed up in my horse riding gear to class and broke a couple of rules.
Just made it. Yeah.
But it was nice, and I was kind of in both worlds. But then when the opportunity came to study at university in Sydney, a long time ago, I then sold my last horse and did the trip. So
was that a hard decision for you to make?
Absolutely.
I mean, that must have been like your baby, right?
Yeah, and he was the final one. He was, and I had him from he was quite young, a very talented horse. So, but it was also, where do I go now? And am I really good enough? Maybe I can try a little bit.
Voice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I was also really, really curious. So then I went to Australia with my then partner as well. So I didn't go completely by myself, and ended up then completing my master's when I was in Australia. I did my master's thesis still with the Swedish handläggare.
Okay.
And I think that was good. Still have the connection and so forth. But I completed the masters there and actually then started my career being based in Australia.
So that was first, almost like your plan B, but you're like, I have to have a plan B. I can't only do the horse thing. And this is great that you did that, because I think that gives you a lot of strength to have the opportunity to go different ways. But then what was your first step? Who opened the first door for you? Because I can imagine, we have to knock on many doors before somebody says yes. So where did you start?
In terms of work, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, you create your own luck, right? And I really, actually in the town hall for the Nordic organization yesterday, that's quite funny, I put it up on the screen, this old quote of the more you practice, the luckier you get.
True.
And I really talked about that and how we're not here to work harder or stay really long hours in the evening and sweat. It's about how we shift what we do to become luckier. We should look like we are lucky, but I mean, I studied really hard. I did have quite good grades. I was,
I can imagine. Yes,
the classical,
I mean,
the normal sort of good hardworking student. And I participated in all of the career fairs that was in the university in Australia, meeting the companies, talking to them. I participated in a couple of their sort of graduate selection programs. I even did an offsite with behavioral assessment for 3 days with one company, and campfires, and it was all a bit strange, but it's an interview from both sides. Only because someone wants you doesn't necessarily mean that you like them as a company. And I think it's so important to maintain that self of sense of self-worth. And it's almost like a marriage. You know, if you start working for a company where it's not a good match, the likelihood is not that you're not going to become as successful as in another partnership.
Right.
I try to be cool.
Yeah.
You know,
You are cool. I think you're very cool. I didn't know what to expect, but I think she's very cool. You went all around the world, and then slowly now you're back. We're in Stockholm, so you're back in Sweden. Like, how did you stop along the way? Did you?
I had a lot of stops along the way. So I started in Australia. I eventually ended up with Procter and Gamble. Hopefully that was a good sort of match, and they chose me, I chose them.
Right.
And I signed a contract. They very quickly asked me if I could move to Singapore to cover the Asian markets, including Australia and New Zealand, which I did for hair color. You know, it was a tough school. I worked a lot, but I really enjoyed my time in Singapore. I stayed there for close to 3 years. Still have a lot of friends there. And then I got a promotion with Procter and Gamble to move to Geneva to do fine fragrances in the premium part of Procter and Gamble. So I did Hugo Boss female fragrances for a number of years. So, you know, staying in that part. And I always thought, you know, that the products you work with, that, you know, that really sort of changes the way you work. I have learned otherwise. That the products, you should connect with the company and be proud of what you sell, but you can actually apply your skills in a lot of different industries. So that has been really cool. So then a couple of years in Switzerland, and then I shifted gears and moved to London to work for Reckitt Benckiser with cleaning products.
Wow. So were you just like, okay, I need something else?
I think I was, to be frank, I was a bit too young to live in Geneva. Okay. Geneva is an amazing place, but I would probably love it today.
Right, I see. You wanted some excitement.
Yes,
so you thought
it was a little bit too nice and quiet.
Yeah.
So they really wanted me to stay there, and I was like, this is, you know.
You grew out of, you needed something else.
Exactly. Okay. So it was more location based than anything else. And then I was deep into the cleaning business for a couple of years. I had drain openers, floor cleaners, shoe polish. So, you know, really driving that big portfolio. It was a global portfolio. A lot of fun, but very different from, you know, premium fragrances and development of those. And then I did a little sneaky detour to a tobacco company. You know, transforming, actually introducing more environmentally and sustainable packaging in that industry. So leading a work stream that has made a lot of change for good. And then I moved...
Since people keep smoking.
Yes.
Don't smoke.
No, it's really not. So you know, that's not the way to do it. And I think I work for a company that actually now really pushes how to move to a smoke-free future and utilizing the alternatives, which is good. But then I moved with them to Egypt.
Egypt.
So
Cairo,
yes. And I was heading up the sales company for tobacco for North Africa, which was quite a ride. And I had a big team there all across North Africa. And I learned so much. And it was a very different environment. But I think when you bring the skills into different areas, different geographies, different products, you also start to say, you know, what is it that I'm really good at? What are my gaps? You know, what can I learn and observe and take on board? And I think it actually fuels your learning process so much more. And it sort of accelerates it in a positive way. And that's also in Egypt. That's where I joined Electrolux.
Oh, so that's where you joined. Okay, so just a question in between. Do you feel like if you feel like this is getting kind of uncomfortable for me in a department within what you're working with, do you feel like you need to explore that, or do you feel like okay, I'm going to step outside, like someone else, like do that, and I want to focus on this because I'm better at doing that, or do you think it's important to actually broaden yourself? Sometimes it's scary to go into a field that's difficult, right? And what do you feel is, what would your like advice be to someone who is starting off and finding their way in their career?
I mean, I'm probably the default yes person, you know.
Yeah.
Are you
Good.
curious
Seems
about
like
this?
it. Yeah.
Or would you be yes, you know?
Okay, so it's good to be a yes person.
Yes. It adds so much to your life to say yes. But clearly, if it's an area where you see a circumstance or a working environment that way, can I be successful here, or will I feel good? You know, will I flourish? Will this bring out the best in me? And if the answer is no to that, then I would try to steer in a different way. So it's not really about the challenge per se or the newness. It really is about, you know, how do I perceive this? How will it make me feel?
Well said. Okay. Yeah.
I think that I try to have that guide my answer more than if it's new and a little bit scary, and that should not keep you away.
So it's good basically to challenge yourself. So now you are almost back in Stockholm. You're still traveling back and forth between London and Stockholm. How do you feel about moving back here, back home?
It is indeed back home. I mean, I spent almost 18 years in the first round outside of Sweden, and then I did a couple of years being back here, and now coming back, you know, for real. And I am so proud working for a genuinely Swedish company with a lot of strong values, beliefs, and products that really reflect on that. So that feels incredibly good.
Yes.
I think with having these different experiences, it also helps you to encourage really or appreciate what we have.
And it's so cool. So you're the first female CEO taking over here. I hope there are many more to follow.
Absolutely.
Yes.
On that point, you know, I've had the question a couple of times. Also, a number of years ago, when I started having more senior leadership positions, you know, and back to the earlier point, I think I've been incredibly lucky, you know, that I haven't really felt that it's been, you know, an extraordinary challenge or that I've had a big sort of stigma to work against. Even in Egypt, is it a little bit different? So as a relatively young female, have a big team that is predominantly male. Yeah, it's maybe not the most common thing. Was it a problem? No, not really. I've really worked on, you know, not trying to be someone else, you know, being authentic in how I show up, not apologizing for maybe doing things differently. And when I had the first briefing here with the leadership team, when I came in, I really put up, you know, Sara at work, you know, with my little Barbie me, and, you know, that I'm really not a morning person, you know, and there are things that I know that maybe it's not the most stereotypical senior leader, but I own it, you know, and I try to be open with that. I have a lot of things that I know I'm very good at, but, you know, having really early morning meetings where I need to be super bright, you know, and there is a list, right? But I think being open with that, then people go like, okay,
yeah.
Then that sort of disappears the moment you kind of approach it.
Yeah. Very well. Well, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're a busy lady. Thank you for checking in, and we will see you soon again. All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Show up, show